Hello and welcome to Radiant Freedom Digital Marketing. And this is the recording of Lesson 5, Part 1, featuring live demos on how to improve your website optimization in using GIMP to prepare images and WordPress tools to speed up your website from our TGI SEO Fridays webinar series with Odin Xavier from the Canadian marketing team. And this one was recorded on Friday, June the 15th. And once again, I'll include links in the description below to Odin's channel and website, and I highly encourage you to check them out.
So hi everyone, and welcome to today's TGI SEO Friday. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here. And today we have Jason is going to be going through a little bit more about how to build our business out with search engine optimization. I've been watching Jason for quite some time, and I'm really excited about what I've been learning. So today, what we're going to do is we're going to just pass it over to Jason. But before we do that, I'm going to invite you to go and check out Jason's YouTube channel. And you just type out Radiant Freedom, and you're going to be able to see the nice logo that he's got there. And just subscribe to that, and you're going to see a whole bunch of other videos, including the first videos of SEO that you can go and check out. So thanks very much, Jason Ross from Radiant Freedom, for being here today. It's a real pleasure to have you here. What are we going to be learning?
Awesome. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. And to answer your question, what we're going to be doing is some live WordPress demos on some of the stuff we've covered in the previous couple of lessons.
Fantastic.
So today what we'll be covering is do a brief review of your silo structure, as well as review briefly website optimization. And then we'll dive right into the live demos. First, I'll do a quick demo on how to optimize your images for the for the web, primarily on how to do cropping and resizing to make sure your image is the right size, so you don't have any wasted data either being stored on your servers or that people are having to wait to download. As well as then we'll be looking at how to do silo structure in your WordPress site, as well as how to do some basic optimization to make your WordPress website load faster for your visitors. So first, let's start with a review of the silo structure. So in short, it's basically a way of organizing the pages of your website into logical topics and groupings to help search engines index your site's contents more effectively, and thus determine what searches it should rank for and how highly, and index your pages sooner by guiding them through your pages more easily. Now, on a side note, it also helps visitors be able to navigate your site more easily by grouping information into logical topics so that people can search by topic through your menu structure and your web pages to find stuff. So there's two main things that it's used for. And the first thing that we were already talking about is making sure the search engines know which each section of your site is about to get you onto relevant searches and keep you off the irrelevant searches. And again, it makes information on your site easier for people to find as well by grouping related information together, such as all your services are grouped together in a single, into a single area of your site. So, and this is sort of a general schematic idea of what it looks like. So you have your home page is generally the top of your website. And that's also generally the first page that probably 60-70% at least of your visitors will see. Then you have things like about, services, blog. There can be many other ideas of silos you could have on your site. And then inside each of these would then be your pages. So you'd have in your about silo, you might have at the parent of it an about page, and then you might have your mission, your team, core values, and other things that are sort of descriptive about who your company is. Services, you'd have at the top of that, summary page of all your services, and then below that, each individual service would have its own page. Same thing for blog. You have your index of all your articles, and then underneath that, each individual article. And this here is a general idea of what it would look like in the address bar. So you'd see, your website address, .com/ then the name of the silo / the name of the page. Now you can also get more advanced with that by putting a silo inside a silo. in which case you'd have your silo name, then say the name of a category or sub-silo. And oops, I didn't mean to advance there, and then the name of your page. And this can go as many layers deep as you need, although I wouldn't recommend going too deep, otherwise that might start leading to it getting confusing for people. But certainly if you have something like, bookstore online, then you might want to have it arranged so that you'll have your products, which would be your books. Then those might then be arranged by categories such as, fiction and nonfiction, and then further by genre, then by each individual book. You could also arrange it by author and a few other ways. So now we'll take a quick review of website optimization. So what website optimization is it's a way of making sure your website loads fast for visitors. A website is a set of files a visitor must download to their computer. So the bigger those files are, in other words, basically the more data that needs to download, the longer your site's going to take to load in the browser. And the main things that'll affect that are the number of files, the size of the files. So obviously bigger files take longer to load, more files take longer to load because there's more data, which means your pages take longer to load. And if your pages take too long to load, then people will start leaving your website. And typically, usually around 5 seconds, we start seeing the first small trickle of people leaving because it's taking too long. And generally by about 10 seconds, you're going to start noticing a significant drop-off in viewers staying on your site because of losing patience. So essentially, the way we measure data is a unit called a byte, which basically consists of 6 bits of like 0 or 1 on off information in groups of 8. And generally, we usually in modern times use larger units, so like kilobytes and megabytes in terms of websites, which is 1,000 bytes for a kilobyte and 1,000,000 bytes for a megabyte. And we don't need to really worry about the larger units, although you might encounter this term for computers when you're dealing with, say, hard drive storage and memory and stuff like that. And basically, the more bytes your website uses, the longer it takes to load. So, and as I mentioned before, if you take longer than 10 seconds, you will start losing a huge portion of your audience. And that drop-off starts at a slow trickle at about 5 seconds and up. So ideally, you want your pages to load fast, like, fast, 5 seconds or less, generally. Otherwise, you're gonna start getting people dropping off your funnel, basically. And the most critical page for this is really your home page, because as I mentioned earlier, that's the page that the vast majority of people are going to see first. So that's where they're getting their first impression. That's where they're going to be most sensitive to a slow page. Now, when I'm using the term load times, what I'm referring to is how many seconds it takes for a page to load in the browser. So a long time for a page to load equals people not seeing your message equals low conversions. All right, so now what we'll do is take a pretty quick peek at a couple of simple tools you can use on WordPress before going into the live demos. So in WordPress, there's a couple of tools. One is what's known as caching, which is basically that's where a copy of certain of your files, such as images and other things like that, are stored locally on your visitor's computer, so that when they're navigating around your site, the pages load faster because they don't have to keep downloading all the data constantly. And also if they're visiting your site, maybe a day later, usually things like images and that will still stick around. But of course, eventually it will clear that out so they'll be able to see updates to your website. And the other one is compressing your files. For certain types of files that contain, programming language, that would be minifying. For other things like image, that would be compression, such as using, say, your JPEG images, which are compressed so that they don't take up as much data. So now it's time for the live demos. So I'll break out of our presentation now. And so the first one we're going to take a look at is how do you deal with optimizing an image? So I've taken a random image from a vacation I took a few years back. And what we're going to do is I'm going to use a program called GIMP to work with this, because the reason GIMP is because it's a similar idea to Photoshop, but it's freely available on pretty much all computer platforms. So Windows, Linux, Mac, whatever you're using, you should be able to get a version of GIMP for it, and it's open source and free. So, we like open source and free things whenever we can. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to be loading this image up here that in GIMP, which is going to take a moment for that to load. There we go. All right, so while we're waiting for that to load, first I was going to show you here is if you look at here, you'll see that it's over 3,000 kilobytes. So that means that's over about a 3.5 million bytes. So it's a big image. So that would be putting something like this up on your website, that would definitely slow it down. Okay, so and here's the image here. So that was actually a photo I got of a mule deer, as I said, on a vacation a few years back at Manning Park. So like I said, this is a huge file, but if you'll notice, first thing you'll notice is along these left and right sides here and a little bit on the bottom, there's some stuff you don't necessarily need in the image. So what we can do is use this tool here as a selection tool. And what I'll do is just drag it over. And one of the things I like about GIMP for doing stuff like this is, let's say you get the area wrong. Let's say I was accidentally chopping off this deer's head. Poor thing. So just get these handles here. You can drag it up. The same handles aren't here, so you can drag it around after you've put it in there and fine tune it to make sure that you're keeping the area that you want. Once you got this set to the right size, then you go to the image menu right here. You go down to here to crop to selection, and it'll cut the extra stuff out. Now you notice that the image's size has gone down a little bit, but it's still huge. So it's still going to be a problem. So we still have more to do. So what we can do next is go back to your image menu, select scale image. And once you get into this, this little menu will open up. You can change the width or the height. And the first thing I'll point out here is this little chain icon. This can either be open or broken like this. The effect that this will have is if it's set to linked like this, then that means that width and height will stay linked. So basically that means it'll stay at the same ratio of width to height. So for example, let's say I cut this down to, this is measured in pixels. So let's say cut this down to about a third of the size. So 1,000, you notice that when I lowered the width, the height lowered too. Now, if I unbreak this, let's say I lower this down to 800, you notice the height didn't change, and that would then start stretching and distorting the image. Now, if it's just a little bit, that's usually okay, but if you're doing it a lot, then that'll start to make your image look very weird, and you probably don't want that. So what we'll do is, let's say, put this down to a nice medium size, say 600 by 641. Then once you're finished editing things in here, you want to click this button here called Scale. And that will then shrink it down. As it shrunk it way down, so it's going to zoom back in a little bit. So now we got our same image. It's now 600 pixels wide. So now there's two options for saving. You can use this save. That'll save a file that's formatted specifically for GIMP. In the case of putting someone on a website, we don't necessarily want that. So what I would do is use export. You could use this. That'll overwrite your original file, which we don't want to do that, because then you'll lose the original in case you need it for something else. So I'm going to use this export, which will open up a save dialog. And what I'll do is just give it a new name, such as cropped. And I'll leave the rest the same. Saving in JPEG is fine. in this case. So now I'll click export and then export again. And now we'll go over here. Now you see we have the new version of this image. And you'll notice that now it's shrunk down to it's only 174 kilobytes. So only a tiny fraction of what it originally was. So that's way better than what we had before. All right, so anyone have any questions at this point?
So that basically means that loading time, by the way, great info. So that basically means that you're reducing the amount of time it's going to load and allowing us to have to essentially get the real value of the website within that first 7 seconds.
Exactly.
Perfect.
Because yeah, the idea is that an image like this, if you were to load this up onto here, I can pretty much guarantee that even on most fast internet connections, your site will still take probably definitely over 5 seconds, even on a 4G level connection to load, just because that's a big file. Plus things, because yeah, it's just a really big file basically. So, and plus if you have like multiple of these, then that's even worse, because at this size you could fit literally 20 of these images on your page and have the same, roughly the same loading time as this one huge image. So you imagine if you had to say 10 of these images on there, that's, like that's like over 35 megabytes of data that people are going to need to be loading. So they're going to be sitting there waiting for like a minute for your site to load.
I remember the website review that we did earlier to see how fast things load and so on. So this works in conjunction with that in order to solve problems. I'm seeing it all together. It's so wonderful.
Yes. This is also what you'd want to do if you are, let's say, wanting to format a page in your website in a particular way where you need your images to be an exacting size, for that. So this is also the method that when I'm doing it just quickly myself, that's the method I use is, crop and resize until it's the exact size. So maybe you need images that are a perfect square at, say, 300 by 300. Then that's how you do that. Because the other way you can do it is there is ways to do it within the HTML code. But the thing is that what that does just makes it appear smaller in your browser, but the file is still the same size. So I could shrink this down in the browser to say, the 600 by whatever this one has, 600 by 641, size, within the browser, but that would still be a 3.5 megabyte file, even if it's looks small, because that's just simply a visual appearance thing. So now what we're going to do is head over to our website and show you, I'm going to, while we're on the topic of optimization, what I'm going to do is actually show you under plugins some things to look out for. So we're going to take a look at our list of installed plugins. And okay, it's going to clear that out of the way. And so first thing you'll notice that we have a lot of plugins installed on here. So we have a couple of different plugins for forms. So like Ninja Forms, or is it Contact Form 7 plus WP Forms Lite. So, we don't need that many plugins to do that same thing. But here's the thing with each of these plugins is each of these contains a bunch of files, which also contain executable programming code. So each of these are going to be slowing your site down because you have them turned on. And even just having them installed. The second thing is, from a security standpoint, each of these plugins also increases what you'd call the attack surface as well. So in other words, it gives more possible ways that a hacker could break into your site. Even if you have them sitting on here dormant and, like, for example, this one, which is just sitting here, deactivated, because the files are still there, a hacker could still use that to break in. So that's one thing is you want to make sure that if you're planning on keeping these plugins, update them, keep them always at the latest version so that That way you're making sure you're getting all the latest security patches and bug fixes and all that. But, of course, as I said, we don't need multiple web form plugins. So what we'll do is deactivate some of these extra ones. We'll deactivate this one here. Okay, actually, I think it might have, okay, it didn't deactivate so we'll deactivate this. Okay, come on. Okay, that reminds me, I'm probably not going to want to use this plugin ever because it's a pain in the butt to get rid of. And then maybe we, Hello Dolly, decide, okay, we don't want that one. So we'll deactivate that. Also, you can deactivate them in bulk as well. So maybe you decide that duplicate post and disable comments. Contact form 7.0s are useful. Google Analytics, maybe that's useful. Sitemaps, but let's say maybe we don't need this one. We don't really need the page builder. Don't need to regenerate files. We don't want Smush. Now the SEO one, we decided, okay, yeah, we want to make sure we have good SEO, so yeah, we'll keep that one around. So then what we'll want to do is go over to here and select delete and apply. And it's gonna, so one of them asks for a confirmation, which is fine. So what's gonna happen is that now we're gonna remove all the unnecessary plugins. Okay, I guess it didn't. Okay, let's try deactivate them first. I was seeing if we could cut a corner there, but apparently not. So now they're all the extra ones we aren't using. So anything that we're not using, then what I'll do is select them. And these little tick boxes over on the side here. WooCommerce, we're not doing e-commerce. Now, security plugins, I would keep those around because we want security. So now the bulk action, I'll select delete and click apply. And yes, we want to delete the extra plugins. All right, so now as you see, it's going through and deleting all the excess data. So this is going to help speed your website up by reducing the amount of data that's on it. Okay, so now all the extra plugins have deleted. So now what we're going to look at is, okay, so what's a good plugin that'll actually speed our website up? And say we need to install one in here because right now these plugins here are all, well, they all do useful things for us. They aren't necessarily doing the thing we want, which is make our website run faster. So what we're looking for, if you remember from our from our review, we're looking for something that does what's called caching. So I put cache in the search here under add new plugins. Let's give it a moment to show up. So you see here is a whole bunch of different plugins. So this is the one I usually like to use, and this is the one I was recommending in my earlier webinar. So we're going to install this one, and we'll give it a moment to install. And now it's installed, so now I'll click activate. And then what this plugin will do once we've finished setting it up is, so now it's active, and if you look over on the side here, all right, well, it was off to, okay, anyways, we can find get settings through here as well, so we'll click settings. That'll open up our area where you can set this plugin up to speed your website up. So generally what you want to do is say we want to enable page cache. Now Minify, that's one of the other tools. Fortunately, this thing does that too, so it'll give us, okay, I understand. So we'll click Minify, we'll leave that on auto. We don't need to worry about that. Okay, so that one's not available. Okay, database cache, sure. object cache, yes, let's turn that on too. And a browser cache, that's already enabled. And that's all the settings we need to worry about for now. So once you finish, click Save. And now this website will start caching all the pages as we navigate around, so that as we or visitors navigate around the site, after the first time, each page they revisit will load faster for them. All right, great. And also with the minify, it also means that each of these plugins that we have on here will also not slow us down by as much. Okay, so that's optimization for you in a nutshell. So what about your getting your silo structure in? So what I'll do is quickly show your visit site. So we'll take a quick look at what we have right now. Okay, that
Hey, Jason.
weird.
We're
Yeah,
coming on to about 30 minutes now, and I want to make sure that we're able to have everyone consume this information and then implement it and take it. So is there any way that we can continue with the second part of this in a couple of weeks with our next TGI SEO Fridays?
absolutely.
Wonderful. So
Absolutely.
So I just want to wrap up and say, hey, everyone, we've gotten to this point right now. You've gotten a ton of information, a lot of implementation. And what's really nice about it is that I'm the believer that we're all like, remember when we were all children and our parents used to show us the way? We haven't really
Yeah,
grown out of that, even though we're adults. Now what we have is other adults showing us the way. So Jason, thank you so much for showing us the way of SEO on this magnificent Friday. And
absolutely.
everyone a great day, and just go to the YouTube page. And Jason, you want to give the YouTube page to everybody?
Yeah, so it's coming up on the screen right now. So we have my email address, jasonross@radiantfreedom.com, website, radiantfreedom.com. Now, I have both mine and Odin's YouTube channels down here.
Oh, great,
And
thanks.
both of our channels do have, great marketing content on there. Odin also does typically upload, copies of of our webinars onto his own channel as well. So you can get them from either my channel, which is youtube.com/c/radiantfreedom, or Odin's channel, which is youtube.com/user/Odin Xavier.
Awesome. Thanks everyone for being here today. And if you weren't part of this live conversation, we're going to be stopping the recording, and we're going to have an open forum now with everyone that's participating. So come onto our live sessions, and all the details on how to become onto our live sessions will be forwarded to you, and you can check it out in the videos as well. There's a page you can sign up on. And get onto the mailing list. Thanks everyone, and
Yeah,
we'll talk to you again really soon.
absolutely. And if you're joining us on YouTube, the link to register for our future webinars will be in the description down below.
Perfect. Thanks, everyone. Bye. Have a great weekend or
Yeah.
great day.
Once again, thank you for watching our webinar. If you found it helpful, be sure and hit the thumbs up button to let us know. If you have any questions or feedback, feel free to leave them in the comments down below. And the schedule for our upcoming TGI SEO Fridays webinars is in the description down below. Along with the link, you can sign up to attend them live. And I highly recommend you get on them live, as you'll have a chance to ask questions and get them answered live on the webinar. Content which is not included in these replays. I've also included Odin's links in the description down below. Now remember, you're awesome, so shine your awesomeness for the world to see. This has been Jason from Radiant Freedom. Bye for now.